Modern Magic, Second Edition, 11 Lessons in the High Magical Arts by Daniel Michael Craig. Lesson 1, Getting Started. I want to start by telling you that all the fairy tales and stories about the powers of wizards, witches, and magicians are true, but unfortunately, only in part. However, it is possible to create spells to bring yourself money, love, wisdom, contentment, and more. You must understand, though, that unlike the magic in fairy tales and in movies, most real magic does not occur instantaneously. As an example, if you work a ritual to bring you money, it may take a week or two for the money to arrive. When it does arrive, it would come only by natural means. But if you properly perform your ritual, come it must. No one can give you magical powers. You have to earn them. There is only one way to do this. Practice, practice, practice. You should also keep a record of your practices, experiences, thoughts, and dreams. It should be done in two separate records or diaries. The diary dream. Starting right now, today, you should start keeping a diary of your dreams. When you dream, and everybody does dream, one of four things may occur. 1. Astral work. When doing astral work, you are learning lessons towards your spiritual, psychological, and magical development, as well as practicing these lessons. This occurs on what is called the astral plane. You will learn more about the Kabbalistic and magical interpretations of the astral plane in later lessons. 2. Psychological messages. Many times, your subconscious needs to tell your consciousness something, but your consciousness refuses to listen. In some dreams, the subconscious sends a message in symbols to the conscious. This is a basis for Freudian analysis. 3. Play. The mind at rest may wander aimlessly and meaninglessly, sending any sort of beautiful or bizarre pictures to your consciousness. 4. A combination of the above. If you have never kept a diary of your dreams, you will find that it is easy. Simply get a pad of paper, leave it with a pencil or pen by your bed at night. When you first wake up in the morning, write down what you remember. If you remember nothing, the entry in your diary may read, "I did not choose to remember my dreams." And that is okay. At first, you may only remember a small amount, but perhaps only one event or feeling. Within a month of steady practice, you will have no trouble keeping your entries to less than a page. Also, obtaining a nice blank book or binder with blank paper into which you should transfer your abbreviated notes from the bedside pad. Unless your handwriting is very legible, print your entry from the pad of paper by your bed into the new book. This will take a little longer, but in years to come, it will be much easier to read. Be sure to date each entry. In the previous paragraph, you will note that I talked about reading the diary in years to come. This overview attitude is quite important. Do not at this point try to analyze each dream. Chances are you will not be able to at this time to tell which of the four types of dreams mentioned earlier you are having. Instead, look for repeated images or changes you have had in recurring dreams. Please, please, please stay away from all of those ridiculous meaning of your dreams books. Let me give you an example of how this diary can be important for you. One of my students had frequent dreams of being chased by soldiers and running and hiding. She had dreams such as these several times a month and would wake up in a cold sweat, terrified. For her, and the dream was a version of events which actually happened to her in early life. But after practicing some of the protection rituals from these lessons, her dreams, she told me, began to change. She no longer would hide and almost be discovered and raped. Instead, she would make her escape. For her, an old mental block, which manifested in a fear of men and sex, is broken down. Her relationship with her boyfriend improved as she felt more secure. This was represented by the change in her reoccurring dream. Similarly, you may be able to see positive changes occur in your life by being able to observe the changes in your dreams over time. Ritual diary. Starting later in this lesson, you will be given rituals to perform at least once daily. They should never take more than half an hour while you are learning them, and much less time when they are memorized. In another book, you should keep a ritual diary. On the following page is a suggested format for your diary. You may wish to make copies of this page and place them in a binder, and simply fill out one each day. All of the data listed is important. You should not leave out any aspect for each of your entries. In the future, you will be able to see what conditions give you the greatest success when doing magic. Some people are most successful when they are happy and it is a warm night outside. Others have their greatest success when they are depressed and it is raining. Together, your ritual diary and dream diary become your own personal secret magical text, which is really only good for you. By phase of moon, I mean full, waning, or waxing. This information can be obtained from a local paper or astrological calendar. By weather conditions, I mean rainy, cloudy, hot, muggy, warm, cold, etc. By emotions, I mean happy, sad, depressed, etc. By performance, I mean what is it done well, fairly, poorly, etc. By results, I mean how do you feel, what did you experience, etc. You may also want to add comments to this section at a later date, in which case you should date in addition. Oh, one last thing about rituals at this time. No, you should not do the ritual 7 times in one day and forget doing them for the rest of the week. You may do more often than once a day, but you should do them at least every day. As a result of giving these lessons many times, I realize that some of you will do more than read this book. Many more people study occultism than practice it. If you are really interested in learning how to do magic, I strongly suggest that before the 7th or 8th lesson, you read at least one other book. Many books will be suggested in the bibliography which follows each lesson. You may select any of these books, or you may choose any book concerned with the Kabbalah, the Tarot, or magic. The purpose of this is twofold. 1. So you get a slightly different view of the subject matter. I make no claim to being a guru or divine master. Studying the same subject from a different point of view will be good for you. 2. So you can get a more in-depth study of a particular subject which interests you. You do not need to buy a book. You can get it from the library, borrow it from a friend, or even pick one up from your personal collection of books and also read it up online. In fact, it could be a book you've already read. It would be a good idea to keep a record of your readings too. List the book titles and authors and dates you've completed and any other comments you may have on the book. Now, before giving you your first ritual, I want to tell you about the one thing which you should have in order to gain the most from this book, a tarot deck. While this is not primarily a course in the tarot deck does play a very important part in the story, a part not limited to giving readings. The best decks for use in this course are the Golden Dawn Tarot, the Bota Tarot, and the Hermetic Tarot. Acceptable decks for this course include the Rider White or Albino White Tarot, tarot decks based on the Rider White such as the Aquarian Tarot, Morgan Greer Tarot, Roy's Fez Moroccan Tarot, and many others. Earlier tarot decks such as the IJJ Swiss deck, which are standard, having 22 major arcana cards, 56 minor arcana cards, for a total of 78 cards. Decks not applicable for this course include the Crowley Thoth deck, which is an excellent deck but too complex in symbolism for beginners. If you are not a beginner and working with the tarot, you really like the Thoth deck, go ahead and use it. If you're not familiar with this deck, avoid it for now. Under no circumstances should you use a non-standard deck. That is, a deck with more or less than 78 cards as described above. This would include the Secret Dakani Oracle, I Ching cards, Gypsy Witch fortune-telling cards, and many others. This is not to say that these decks are bad or wrong. only that they do not go with these lessons. Tarot decks can be purchased at most major bookstores. However, I suggest that you patronize metaphysical bookstores or occult supply shops. People who work there are generally far more knowledgeable, friendly, and helpful than those at general bookstores. On the next page is your first ritual. Remember, it should be practiced at least once a day. You may have learned the ritual elsewhere. Many groups, organizations, and even doctors and psychological therapists teach forms of it. But although it is simple, do not underestimate its importance. Walking seems simple now, but it was very difficult for you to learn, and you had to learn it before you could learn to run. This ritual will be used to prepare for every magical ritual in the entire course. The relaxation ritual. Step 1. Sit or lay in a place where you will not be disturbed for at least 5 minutes. Remember to unplug the telephone. Get comfortable. If you are sitting, your back should be straight. Whether sitting or lying down, your legs and arms should be crossed. If sitting, rest your hands palms down in your lap. Your eyes should be closed. Step 2. Visualize a golden ball of beautiful, warm light surrounding your feet. If you cannot see the ball of light when you visualize it, that is okay. Just know that it is there. Truly know that if your powers of visualization were different, you would be able to see it. The ball of golden, warm light always brings peace and total relaxation. Wherever the ball of light goes, tension departs. Let it go. As it goes, fill your feet with the warm light. Golden glow of peace and total relaxation. Step 3. Now, allow this ball of light to rise up your legs and up your torso. Then allow it to go down your arms, to your fingers, and finally up your neck, and into your head until you are completely covered with the warm, golden glow of total peace and relaxation, and all tension is gone. If you notice tension anywhere, send the ball of light there, and the tension shall vanish. Step 4. Stay in this state of deep relaxation for a few moments. Know that you can return to this state whenever you like simply by doing the relaxation ritual. If you are having trouble sleeping, try this ritual when you lay down at night. Instead of suffering or taking dangerous pills, be at one with yourself. Step 5. When you are ready to come out of this state of deep relaxation, take 3 deep breaths. Feel fresh life and energy coming into your body with each breath. Be sure to record your experience in your ritual diary. Now, before going further, spend a few days getting used to keeping your diaries, doing the ritual, and obtaining a tarot deck if you do not have one already. A few of my students have related to me that someone told me that the only way to get a tarot deck is to have a friend give it to you. This is utterly nonsense. Find a deck you like and buy it if you do not have one at present. What is magic? In the first few pages, we have already covered a great deal of material. We discussed dreams, ritual work, gave you a ritual to do daily, and told you how to keep a record of your work. This was to get you started on practical work, as opposed to theoretical knowledge. The assumption was made, however, that you have a basic idea of exactly what magic is, but your definition may not be the same as mine. So let us now try to come to a workable definition of magic. According to the famous occultist Aleister Crowley, magic is the science and art of causing change to occur in conformity with the will. Crowley was a member of the famous Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, which was mentioned earlier. Another member of the Golden Dawn was Dion Fortune. Her definition of magic was the same as Crowley's, except that she considered the change to be a change in consciousness. Note: Fortune was a lay psychologist with several books on psychology to her credit under her real name, Violet Firth. But what exactly do these definitions mean? Let's say what you do a magical ritual to get $50. If therefore is your will to get the money, You go out for a walk, and although when walking it is your habit to go right at a particular street, something makes you decide to turn left. A block down this street, you meet an old friend who returns the $50 you had loaned him several months ago. What made you turn left? According to Crowley's definition, your magical ritual would have caused some change in this physical world which resulted in your turning in an unusual direction. Perhaps it was a smell or a telepathic message from your friend or from a higher entity telling you to turn left. If you ascribe to Dion Fortune's definition, then you would say that the ritual made you change in your consciousness, which gave you the information to turn left instead of the right. In either case, three things are apparent. 1. No matter which definition you use, the actual result is the same. 2. The result functions as if there had been a change in the physical world, regardless of whether there had been a change in the physical world or just a change in your consciousness. And 3. Magic works. Unfortunately, either definition is still too broad. If you cause a change in conformity with will and call it magic, then almost anything you do is a magical act. If it is your will to open a door, then you turn the knob and open the door. By the above definitions, you have done a magical act. In fact, Crowley, his name rhymes with holy, says that every intentional act is a magical act. If you follow his line of reasoning, there is a great deal of validity in what he says, although it is not what we are seeking at this time. We need to make the definition of magic a bit longer. Magic is a science and art of causing change in consciousness to occur in conformity with will using means that are not currently understood by traditional Western science. We have added the idea that magic is accomplished by some means not known by modern science. A ritual which causes something to occur does not make sense to current Western scientific thought. Therefore, scientists are inclined to think that real magic, since it doesn't fit into their worldview, is nothing more than supernatural hokum. But magic is not supernatural. If our entire universe came about either as a creation of an intelligent being or beings, or merely as a result of chance events, we still must come to the same conclusion. Everything in the universe is natural. Some ancient cultures consider the apparent rise and fall of the sun to be a supernatural event. As time passed, it was discovered that the seeming rise and fall of the sun was in fact a natural event caused by the rotation of the earth. I am firmly convinced that one day magic will be understood in Western scientific terms. History proves this. Reading, writing, mathematics, astronomy, chemistry, medicine, physics, more were all at one time deep occult secrets. Today, many of these things are taught to the children before they begin school. The occultism of the past becomes the science of the future. Arthur C. Clarke. The famous science fiction writer of the author of 2001: A Space Odyssey said that any sufficiently advanced technology will appear to be magic to those with lesser technologies. I totally concur. In a sense, then, you are now a scientist of the future. That is why you should follow what is called the scientific method. This method tries to control all variables in experiments and keeps accurate records of these experiments. This is why your diary is so important. It will show how variables, weather, emotions, etc., affect your experiments, rituals. I cannot overstress the importance of keeping your magical and dream diaries. We now have a definition of magic which is far more specific than either Crowley's or Fortune's. Since the results are the same, by the way, I will be dropping Fortune's in consciousness from the definition. But the definition we have so far is still not precise enough for our purposes. We have to add to our definition the goal or result of magic. I divide magic into 3 categories. It is important to note that these categories are used in this book. Other people differ as to their definitions of the different types of magic. Some use fewer categories, others more. Here are the descriptions of each category. White magic. In Eastern cultures, white magic is known as yoga. When most people speak of yoga, what they actually mean is hatha yoga. Hatha yoga involves the stretching of the body in order to prepare it for true yoga. The word yoga comes from the Sanskrit root yug, which means yoke, your union. This union of true yoga is where you unite with or yoke yourself to your higher self or with God. White magic, sometimes called mysticism, is the yoga of the West. It has a variety of names, including cosmic consciousness, the knowledge of conversation of your holy guardian angel, realization of self, and more. We will use the expression used by the Golden Dawn, which gives us the following definition of white magic. White magic is the science and art of causing change to occur in conformity with will using means not currently understood by traditional Western science for the purpose of attaining knowledge and conversation of your holy guardian angel. Black magic. This category of magic has an easy definition, which needs little to no explanation. Black magic is the science and art of causing change to occur in conformity with will using means not currently understood by traditional Western science for the purpose of causing either physical or non-physical harm to yourself or others, and is done either consciously or unconsciously. I will be discussing black magic only from the standpoint of how to avoid it accidentally or purposely, because black magic I will be discussing black magic only from the standpoint of how to avoid accidentally or purposefully becoming a black magic practitioner. Gray magic. Gray magic is a mixture of white magic and black magic. Gray magic can become either white or black or remain gray, as we shall see. Here is a definition. Gray magic is the science and art of causing change to occur in conformity with will, using means not currently understood by traditional Western science for the purpose of causing either physical or non-physical good to yourself or others, and is done either consciously or unconsciously. Let us say that you do a spell to help a friend regain her health. By definition, this is gray magic, because you are doing something for the physical good of another person. However, because you did the gray magic to help another, you end up feeling that you are closer to divinity, closer to the knowledge and conversation of your holy guardian angel. Thus, it is also considered white magic. On the other hand, let us say that you did a ritual to obtain $1,000. Unlike some philosophies, the traditions of magic hold that there is nothing wrong with using magical abilities to advance yourself in this world. Yes, it is perfectly fine to use magical abilities and knowledge to get ahead in this physical plane, to get money, friends, love, fame. But let us assume that after doing your ritual to obtain the thousands of dollars, your uncle dies in a car crash and leaves you $1,000 in his will. Yes, you have retained your end, but you have done it using black magic. You have indirectly, or perhaps we could say directly, killed a person. Some of you may even be thinking now, well, so what? I got the money I wanted. Yes, this is true, but there is also a price to pay. As you sow, so shall you reap. If you caused evil, if you have been a source of spiritual darkness, it will surely return to you. In many Wiccan traditions, it is believed that what you do will return to you threefold. Those doing black magic always have a heavy price to pay. I have a friend named Robin who used to be a Satanist and a black magician. She told me that she could always tell when a curse or black magic spell she had worked on had come to fruition because something unfortunate would happen to her. This is not to mention to be a lecture telling you that you should never do black magic. Rather, it is to intend to show you that what to expect if you try it. Just as there is a law of gravity, so too is there an inviolable law of what is called in the East karma, and by Kabbalist tikkun, pronounced tikkun, put out good and you will receive good. Put out evil, even unintentionally, and evil is what you will get. Such is the law. So how can you avoid falling into these pits of black magic of the black magician? First, by practicing white magic. This is why the first part of this course is only involved in teaching white magic. Do not ignore this work, as this course is cumulative. Your development as a powerful great magician and what happens in the future in this course is dependent upon what you are doing now. Second, before doing any great magic, you should also do a divination to determine the effect and outcome of your magic. This is the reason why learning the tarot or some other divinatory system is important. On the following pages, you will discover meanings of the 22 major arcana cards of the tarot. An R is followed by the meaning of the card. If it is appeared reversed, the picture is upside down to you. There are no such things as the true meanings of the cards. The meanings here are based upon the teachings of occultists and Kabbalists A.E. White and S.L. McGregor Mathers. For the next few days, you should become familiar with the deck and the definitions given here for the major arcana. For the time being, ignore any instructions, books on the tarot which you may have or which were included with the deck. Later, you can add to this system given here from information learned elsewhere. Using the cards for divination purposes will be explained in the next part of this lesson. In the meantime, continue your diaries and the relaxation ritual, but after that ritual, add the following. The tarot contemplation ritual. Step 1. Remove the 22 cards of the major arcana. Take from the 22 cards, which should be numbered from 0 to 21, the cards numbered 6, 7, 10, 13, 15, and 18. These will not be used at this time, so put them with the remainder of the deck. Keep the remaining cards of the major arcana with you while you perform the relaxation ritual. Step 2. Immediately after completing the relaxation ritual, take the 16 cards which remain from the major arcana and mix them up, shuffle them, in any manner you desire until you feel it is time to stop. Then step 3. Select any one card and look at the picture on it for no more than 3 minutes. Step 4. Take 3 deep breaths and the tarot contemplation ritual is complete. Step 5. Record the card, name, and number in your magical diary. Also record any feelings, sensations, or ideas you've received while looking at or contemplating the card. Tarot divinatory meanings of the major arcana. 0. The Fool. Folly, foolishness, extravagance. In reverse, hesitant, careless, trouble from ignoring foolishness. 1. The Magician. Skills, willpower, and self-confidence. Reverse, wrong use of the same, conscient, lack of skill. 2. The High Priestess. Science and education and knowledge. In reverse, it signifies ignorance, superficial knowledge. 3. Empress. Fruitfulness, action, and creativity. In reverse, it is inactive due to vacillation, losing power. 4. Emperor. Signifies power, effectiveness, and reason. In reverse, it signifies immature emotions, obstructions to plans. Number 5. Hierophant. Mercy and goodness. A person who shows these qualities. In reverse, overkindness and weakness. Number 6. Lovers. A test which you will pass. A new love. In reverse, it means a failed test or a lost love. 7. Chariot. Triumph. Overcoming obstacles. In reverse, defeat. Obstacles overcome you. 8. Strength. Spiritual power. In reverse, it signifies physical power. 9. Hermit. Caution or spiritual advancement. In reverse, fear, overly cautious, unwise acts. 10. Wheel of Fortune. This signifies good fortune, success, and luck. In reverse, bad luck and ill fortune. Number 11, justice. Signifies balance, justice, and equilibrium. In reverse, imbalance, bigotry, and bias. 12, the hanged man signifies wisdom as a result of self-sacrifice. In reverse, selfishness, trying to fit in with the crowd. 13, death, an evolutionary change or transformation. In reverse, it signifies stagnation. Number 14, temperance. Combine or unite seemingly unlike things in moderation. In reverse, it means clashing of interests. Number 15, devil. Something must happen, but in the long run, it is for the good. In reverse, something must happen, but for evil. Number 16, tower. Ruin, catastrophe, disruption. In reverse, signifies the same, but to a lesser degree. Number 17, star, hope, and a bright future. In reverse, it signifies expectations disappointed, barrenness. Number 18, moon, signifies deception and hidden enemies. In reverse, it signifies deception only slightly. Number 19, the sun, happiness and contentment. In reverse, it remains the same but to a lesser degree. Number 20, judgment, renewal and rebirth. In reverse, it means setbacks and delays. 21, universe, assured success and completion. In reverse, it means failure, inertia, and evil reward. Part 2. In this part, I'll be discussing the history of the tarot and how to do a divination using the tarot. Remember, becoming proficient in divination system is necessary to prevent gray magic from becoming black magic. This is why this study is very important. Part 2. In this part, I will be discussing the history of the tarot and how to do a divination using the tarot. Remember, performing proficient in a divination system is necessary to prevent gray magic from becoming black magic. That is why this study is very important. First though, you might wonder why you should study the tarot and not some other system. Perhaps you are already familiar with the Yi Ching, or crystal gazing, or astrological prediction. All of these systems, in fact, are excellent. Aleister Crowley used the Yi King far more often than the tarot. But as you will see in this book, we will be using the tarot for reasons other than just divination purposes. And it is my belief that the more you use the tarot in any way, the more easily you will become proficient in its use in all ways. You perhaps have heard the expression worldview. The idea behind this expression is that you can have an underlying viewpoint which gives you a way to understand how people, our world, and the universe function and interrelate. Some people have a worldview based upon politics, religion, and various philosophical doctrines. Ritual magicians usually have their worldview based upon the Kabbalah and the tarot. Yes, the tarot was already in one of the first rituals given here. As this book progresses, you will see that it plays even more important parts in ritual magic. There are actually two histories of the tarot. One is factual, the other is made up of unproven and sometimes absurd theories. One of these unproven theories attributes an Egyptian heritage to the tarot. Study of the Egyptian theory has it that Thoth, the god who functioned as a scribe to the other Egyptian gods, gave 22 pictures which illustrated great wisdom to the ancient temple mystery of the occult of Egypt. These pictures were hung on pillars in a temple underneath and between the legs of a famous sphinx near the Great Pyramid of Chiefs Khufu. An initiate into the mysteries would be led between the pillars and would have the meanings of the pictures explained to him by the initiator. From there, the initiate would go via an underground passageway to the Great Pyramid, wherein he would receive full initiation. Unfortunately, there is no proof that this exact type of initiation ever took place. Another story has it that a group of wise scholars, knowing that the famous Library of Alexandria was going to be destroyed, met in the city of Fez, Morocco, to be decided what to do. Some versions of this story say that the meeting was held after the destruction. One version of the story continues by saying that these scholars came from many lands, did not have a common language. Scholar artists created a symbolic language with which they could communicate. The tarot is a descendant of that artwork. Another version says that the wise men decided to make one great book containing all of the important wisdoms of the world, which otherwise would be lost in the destruction of the library. In order that this great book would not also be destroyed, they decided to keep it hidden in the form of a gambling game, realizing that although humanity's search for wisdom might die, its thirst for quick gain and its lowered nature would never disappear. Thus, according to these theories, was the tarot born. Again, there is no proof that any of these stories is in any way factual. There are many other stories as to where the tarot cards may have come. Some versions say that the tarot was brought out of Egypt by the gypsies. Note that the word gypsy is derived from the word Egyptian. Other stories which to have a bit possibility to them have the tarot developing out of gaming or fortune-telling systems from India or China. There is, however, no proof that any of these stories are true. We do have historical records of the following facts. 1. The first mention of the tarot was made by 1332 by Alphonse XI, King of Leon and Castile. He banned them along with other gambling games. Second, in 1337, Jonas, a German monk, wrote that they could be used to teach morality. 3. In 1392, Charles VI of France bought 3 sets of the major arcana from a man named Gregorio. 4. By the 1400s, the Italian version known as the Tarocchino had over 100 cards including the zodiac and the so-called Christian virtues. Thus, the early 14th century is the earliest we can possibly date the beginning of the tarot. At that time, as now, there was a great deal of non-standardization. At least one deck had over 140 cards. Tarot decks were used for gambling and instructions of the young, especially those who had not been taught how to read. But by the 1800s, the tarot was used almost exclusively for fortune-telling. Most decks used at this time were based upon the deck of Charles VI, now known as the Gregorio deck. One variation of this deck is the Visconti pack, another is the Marsilis tarot. The Golden Dawn made extensive use of the tarot, and as already mentioned, we will be learning some of the more esoteric uses of the tarot later in this book. A.E. White and Philemia Coleman Smith, both members of the Golden Dawn, designed what is today's most popular deck and so-called the Rider-Waite tarot. When it was first released in 1910, it caught on very quickly because it marked the first time that a tarot deck had been simultaneously published with a book explaining how to use the deck. In this instance, the book was White's Practical Key to the Tarot. Of all of White's ponderously written tomes, this is the easiest to read. The correct version of the tarot, their own version, was considered to be an important secret of the Golden Dawn. White, who had taken solemn vows not to reveal the inner secrets of the Golden Dawn, kept his word. Many of his cards are designed with incorrect symbolism compared to the Golden Dawn version in order to fool the uninitiated. Today, there are many decks based upon White's design. More original decks, which are actually based on White's and Smith's art, are popping up almost every day. And all these decks, according to the Golden Dawn tradition, are symbolically wrong. However, because of their massive use and popularity, they have developed a validity of their own. Different though it may be from the Golden Dawn tradition, other members of the Golden Dawn who designed tarot decks, including Aleister Crowley Thoth's deck, who mixed the Golden Dawn's ideas with his own system of Egyptian, Sumerian, and Tantric occultism, plus a good dose of perversive humor, and Paul Foster Case's BOTA deck, which gives a version that seems halfway between the Golden Dawn deck and White's deck was the first public revelation of the Golden Dawn attributions of the Hebrew alphabet with the major arcana cards. A few years ago, a deck came out called the Golden Dawn deck. Although it is the deck recommended for this course, I would like to point out that the artist Wang made some glaring errors and omissions. There is not enough pace to list them here, but there is not enough space to list them here, but if you're interested in discovering the errors, I suggest comparing Wang's designs with the descriptions as printed on Rigardi's book, The Golden Dawn. Still, it is most symbolically correct. It is the most symbolically correct deck in a Golden Dawn sense on the market. I know some people who claim to be occultists who collect tarot decks. Their collection, in fact, is their only claim to knowing about the occult, but some decks which they collect are so distant from anything which could be called metaphysical that I wonder about their brand of occultism. One deck I saw has each card drawn by a different artist, even though it is based on White's deck. It gets so silly that it even uses popular cartoon characters on them. Another deck, called the Tarot of the Witches, certainly an insult to most, if not all, witches, was designed for a James Bond movie. In summary, there is no proof that the tarot came from a single ancient source in Egypt, China, India, or any place else. That they were first introduced into Europe in the early 14th century, as is known, but where they originally came from is one of the great, unprovable, at this time, mysteries of the universe. Now, I would like to give my unprovable guess as to how the cards developed. It is known that both India and China did have gaming systems which, to a minor extent, resembled a pack of cards. Although unprovable, I maintain that it is likely that a traveler going from one of these countries to the Middle East, or perhaps a trader from the Middle East who went to India or China, somehow left one of these systems or a version of it in one of the Middle Eastern countries. Then, during one of the Crusades, a knight brought back one of these proto-decks and gave it to his lord or king. Next, that lord or king is in a display, egotistical vanity, I've got something you don't have, say, showed it to a peer, another kid lord or king. That second person decided to have it duplicated, or in a similar manner. The artist of one lord showed it to the artist of another lord. The second artist either made a direct copy or made a version from memory. Moving from lord to lord, from king to king, the tarot evolved. There were, at the time, artists' guilds, which Masons may have included some form of mystical knowledge. Certainly, many artists then, before then, and now are interested in this relationship between humanity and the divine. One of these artists could have added some mysticism in the tarot art, and another could have added more. This progressed until what we have as the tarot exists today. But the most important question is, does it matter where or how the tarot developed? To this, there must be a loud no in answer, for the tarot's use as a powerful mystical and magical tool has been proven over the past several centuries. It is important to understand the difference between fortune-telling and divination. Fortune-telling says that something must happen. Divination, such as the tarot cards, never say what must happen. It only indicates what will probably happen if you continue on the path you are currently traveling. According to this view, you have the freedom to ensure something happens or prevent it from occurring. You have free will, and the choice is always up to you. Fortune telling would say that, as an example, you will have an accident on a boat on a specific date. Divination would tell you that a boat trip at that time could cause problems. You are advised to stay away from the boats. You can then either avoid the boat trip or be extra careful when you're on the boat. Fortune telling says you have no choice. You will be on the boat at the time and you will have an accident. Divination says you have free will. You can move to the desert, or at least you can stay away from boats. In this book, we strongly affirm free will, not predestination. There is another reason, a very practical reason for doing divination and not fortune telling. In many states, counties, and cities, fortune telling for money is not legal. If you decide to become involved with giving readings for people and intend to charge for them, I advise calling what you are doing psychological counseling, divination, or if you obtain a ministerial certificate, spiritual or religious counseling. On the following pages, I will give a method for doing a divination using just the major arcana cards. I will note here that a good reading can be given using only these 22. They tend to present changing forces rather than the more static forces represented by the minor arcana. Using the minor arcana can give more detail, but using just the major arcana can give you more information on how things are changing or will change in your life. The split hexagram spread. In this diagram can be seen two triangles, split hexagram, with an extra card between them. The upper triangle represents spiritual forces being brought down to the physical plane. The lower triangle shows conscious and unconscious desires and what is truly wanted or needed. The card in the center represents the final outcome of the matter under question. Here are step-by-step instructions on how to use this tarot spread layout to determine the outcome of great magic. This reading may be used for many purposes. 1. Set up the major arcana cards in a packet so that they are all facing one direction in numerical order. If they are face down, they should have the card entitled The Fool at the top of the deck. The 22, the universe or world, should be at the bottom. 2. Now, formulate your question. It should be in the style of, what will be the outcome if I use magic to blank? Question mark. Do not ask the cards, should I do such and such, as this puts the responsibility for your actions on the cards rather than on you. You should be seeking advice, not asking a pseudo-mommy for instructions. Number 3. While concentrating on your question, mix up the cards in any manner or fashion you desire. Continue to do so until you get a feeling that it's time to stop. Make sure that some of the cards are mixed from end to end too. Number 4. Cut the cards into 3 piles to your left. Pick up the piles from right to left. Number 5. Lay the cards face down on your table in the order shown in the diagram. First 3 cards make the upper downward pointing triangle. Cards 4, 5, and 6 make up the lower upward pointing triangle. And the 7th cards goes in the middle between the 2 triangles. Number 6. Turn over cards in the positions 1 and 2. Both positions represent unknown spiritual influences. Card 2 will have a stronger effect on you than does card 1. Interpret these 2 cards at your will. Number 7. Turn over the card in position 3. This represents the spiritual advice for the matter. Interpret this card at your will. Number 8. Turn over card 4. This card represents your unconscious desires in the matter. You may find that your real inner reason has no relation to your outer reasons. Interpret this card as your will. Number 9. Turn over card 5. This represents your conscious desires in the matter. Interpret this card at your will. Number 10. Now turn over card 6. This card will indicate practical advice in the matter. It may suggest changing your focus in order to achieve what you really want. It may advise you to go ahead or abandon the project. Of course, whether you continue with the project or not is up to you. Number 11. Turn over the 7th card. This is the final outcome if you go ahead at this time. Even if the reading so far has been positive, the outcome may be negative. This is because there may be other considerations which this shorter reading does not take into account. The split hexagram spread is a quick and easy method, but it is not intended to be totally and fully complete. It should be enough, however, to get you through the course of lessons in this book. Let's look now at a sample reading. I mix up the cards while thinking, what will be the outcome if I use magic to bring a new lover into my life? After cutting the cards and laying the spread, the cards are as follows. Magician in reverse, Empress, Emperor, Hierophant, Strength, Lovers, Emperor. My interpretation is as follows. Cards 1 and 2 indicate that this act will lead to great creativity, Empress, even though it could be seen as a wrongful use of magical abilities, Magician. Card 3 indicates that it could lead to power and effectiveness. Card 4 indicates that inwardly I seek spiritual power more than just a sex partner. Consciously, As card 5 indicates, I really do want a new love or relationship. And card 6 gives me the practical advice that magic alone will not be enough to keep a good relationship and that I must show mercy and goodness. The final outcome, according to card 7, is that if I follow the advice given here, especially in card 6, my success in the matter is assured. I would add to this interpretation that, as card 6 indicates, I do not just need anybody, rather I need someone who would enhance my spiritual practices. The only way to learn the tarot is to use it constantly. Try memorizing the meaning of the cards, one card per day. Also try giving yourself small readings on a daily basis. However, don't count on the accuracies for at least a month. You're probably not too accurate when you first learn to ride a bicycle or drive a car. Be sure to also continue with the tarot contemplation ritual. Doing a reading or ritual does not overcome the need for doing both. For the purpose of this course, only the major arcana is important. You will learn more of its importance later, but it is necessary to say a few words about the major arcana here. For giving general readings to yourself and others, the minor arcana should be brought in, especially for in-depth reading. Since the minor arcana does not play an intrinsic role in this book's study of magic, the minor arcana will be left to other authors. After studying and practicing the system explained here for at least 2 months, feel free to study the tarot on your own. I would add that there is no ultimate correct meaning to each card, thus different authors may give different meanings to the same card. Use your ideas to add to what you have learned here. Some suggested books on the tarot are listed in this lesson's bibliography. Part 3. The high magical art is by nature different from certain aspects of other so-called primitive forms of magic, as practiced by those involved in witchcraft, Wicca, voodoo, Bragira, etc. The word primitive is not meant to insult the follower of those or similar traditions, any more than calling somebody such as Grandma Moses a primitive artist is insulting. Rather, it infers older styles in simpler ways. Many people I know who are involved in Wicca and witchcraft are proud that their tradition is both old and simple. But the very simplicity of these styles of magic has led to numerous books of spells and incantations designed for the masses, which are, to a large extent, useless. The number of such books, directly related to the Kabbalistic ceremonial magic art, are small in number. One of the big differences is that for many of the primitive technologies, all that seems to be necessary is the saying of a brief incantation and the ritual manipulation of a few objects, burning a candle, making a voodoo baby, and so forth. Sometimes the spells become mutilated over time so that the meaning of the original words become lost and the spell becomes nothing but sounds without any sense. Although this has happened to some extent with ceremonial magic, a true magician always knows the exact meaning of every word and action of a ritual. This is why so many training, study, and practice goes into making a magician. The actual instructions for doing the next ritual, which you will be learning, is the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, will be given in the next lesson. Now, at this point, there are probably some of you reading this who are groaning and thinking, but I learned that ritual years ago. Besides, it's so simple. Well, if you think it is simple, you have never done it correctly. And with full knowledge of the ritual, it is a basic ritual, but it is not simple. It is short and easy to memorize, but not simple. According to my dictionary, the word basic means something which forms a base, like a basic ingredient. Something that is fundamental. I cannot overstress the fundamental nature of this ritual and how its practice will change your life and improve your psyche and magical abilities. I've been doing it at least once daily for almost 10 years, and I have no desire to stop. It is a basic, short ritual that is necessary to your development as a true ceremonial magician. There are 3 reasons for doing this ritual. The most important, yet most ethereal, is to know yourself. You will learn if you have the strength of will to stick to doing a ritual of this sort on a daily basis. You will develop a different feeling about yourself, and your relationship to others in the world around you. It will affect you in many positive but subtle ways. Secondly, it will expand your aura. This will cause others to look like you, or this will cause others to like you and respect you more and come to you for comfort. You realize that this is occurring when people start asking you questions like, is that a new dress? Did you lose some weight? Did you get your hair cut? Even though the dress was old, your hair is the same and you haven't lost an ounce. Most people can subconsciously detect the aura and will be able to detect such a change in you, but they do not know that it is the aura which has changed. So they have to come up with something they are familiar with, something on the physical plane such as your hair, clothes, weight. As your aura expands and brightens, you will also find yourself becoming stronger spiritually and psychologically than you have ever before. Thirdly, this ritual, the LBRP for short, will remove from your immediate area, banish, any unwanted influences. This includes physical influence and non-physical ones, including astral and elemental forces. This is one of the greatest defenses against psychic attack ever. The more you practice the LBRP, the more safe, the more at peace you will become. The attitude you will adopt when you perform this ritual is important. People working with computers say garbage in, garbage out. Similarly, you will get out of the ritual exactly what you put into it. Go into this ritual angry and you will come out of it feeling angrier. You should assume an attitude of beauty and joy. Doing the relaxation ritual immediately before the LBRP. Doing the relaxation ritual immediately before the LBRP will aid you in achieving the desired state of consciousness. You should be very positive. Sure that when you call on the archangels that they will be there. Sure that the pentagrams are really there. Positive that you are doing the very best you possibly can. However, you should not lust for results. Focus on the ritual, not what you expect the result of the ritual to be. If you perform the ritual with complete concentration, you will be successful. If you concentrate on something else, such as what you expect to experience or what you expect as a result of the ritual, you will divide your energies and the ritual will decrease in its effectiveness. When you perform the ritual, you must understand that you are no longer in your house or apartment or building. Nor are you merely outdoors. Rather, you are in the temple of the gods. You are also in the presence of divinity. Wherever you are when you do this ritual, the area becomes a holy place. You should treat it as such. Also remember that you are a beginner, a student, a magician in training. You are not a high-ranking magus or wizard, therefore be modest, especially in the presence of the divine. There are several physical things which you may want to use when you perform the LBRP. However, there is only one thing which you must have, and that is a place where you can be alone and undisturbed. To do this ritual requires no more than 10 minutes, and once it is memorized, even less time is necessary. Make sure you will be undisturbed for this brief length of time. This ritual is not meant for the public's eye. Second, it is traditional to have an altar. This can be a small table covered with a black cloth, or the traditional double cube. A good size for the traditional altar is 36 inches high by 18 inches wide by 18 inches deep. This way, you can have an altar that is like two 18 inches square cubes on top of one another, as above, so below. It also represents the earth plane because the number of sides of this altar, which are external, top, bottom, the four sides of the upper cube and the four sides of the lower, equal 10. The number of the earth according to the Kabbalah. I made my altar in a very easy way. At an unfinished wood store, they sell cubes of pressed board, also known as chipboard, that are 18 by 18 inches and have one side open. I simply nailed two cubes together Add a piece of 18-inch by 36-inch plywood, 1/2 thick, to cover the open side of the cubes. Upon adding several coats of paint, even with a sealer coat, this type of wood seems to drink up paint. And some wheels to make the altar movable was finished. Traditionally, the altar is painted black to represent the fact that we are far from true spiritual light, which comes from above, even though it is from here and that we must begin our starry climb. My first altar, however, was painted white and had on it a beautiful figure of the tree of life. More on this figure later. And also the protective pentagram with Solomon from the book of the Goetia. If you decide to make an altar which is not the traditional black double cube, carefully consider the meaning of any symbolism, including color, which you wish to use. Third, candles are much better than electric light for ritual work. You could have one candle for the altar, maybe a few more for the room if you are doing the ritual inside. And this time, use white candles. These can represent the purity of spiritual energy. Incense, also a nice touch, always adds to the ritual work. Incense is said to represent prayers going up to God. At this point, the type of incense is not important. Merely find a scent which you like and use it. Therefore, traditional tools are weapons used by ceremonial magicians. Details of their construction will be given in later chapters. These tools are the wand, the cup, the dagger, and the pentacle. You could also use a paper cup to represent elemental water, salt instead of a pentacle to represent elemental earth, a match instead of a wand to represent elemental fire, and a feather instead of a dagger to represent elemental air. Have the symbol for each of the elements on the altar, or have none of them. You should not have an imbalance in energies the tools represent. If you do have the weapons, the air symbol should be on the eastern part of the altar, the fire symbol to be the south, the water symbol to be the east, and the earth to be the north. If you have the tools, they should be wrapped in a piece of silk or cotton when they are not being used. The wand in red, the chalice in blue, the dagger in yellow, and the pentacle in black. Sleight of hand magicians shops usually have silk handkerchiefs available in these and other colors and shades. You may also wish to use a bell. This can be used for marking the beginning and end of the ritual, as well as marking off various sections or more complex ceremonies. Another item to have is proper clothes. Whereas some spiritual traditions use ritual nudity, ceremonial magic has always used special clothes. Traditionally, this is black or white towel robe, so called because when you hold your arms out to the side, it looks like the Greek letter tau. It is similar to the type of robes worn by the people of choirs or angels in films. However, a robe is not necessary. The purpose of putting on a robe is to visibly show both your consciousness and subconsciousness that you are no longer in your daily dress. Strongly shows that you are about to do something very special and spiritual. If you do not have access to these things needed, make or obtain a robe. Simply go through your closet, find some clothes that you are not worn in a long time, or buy some new ones. Wash them thoroughly. Now, only wear these clothes when you're going to do ritual work, and never for any other reason. Thus, even though they are ordinary clothes, they become something magical. You will know that when you put them on, you're going to do something special. Picture of the towel robe. I want to make something very clear to you. You must not wait until you have all of your tools to start working on the LBRP. You should start on it as soon as you begin studying in the next lesson. I am giving you some instructions on the tools you may wish to have so that you can start gathering them now. But once you get into the instructions on how to do the ritual, begin practicing it immediately. The only thing you need to perform the ritual is space and to be alone and undisturbed. This can be obtained by locking yourself in the bathroom if need be. And remember, the more you practice the ritual, the better at it you will be. In the LBRP, you will be making large 5-pointed stars, pentagrams in the air in a specific way. Your left hand should remain at your side. If you have a knife, not the air knife, use another dagger for the LBRP. Hold it in your right hand. If not, make a fist and point with the extended index finger, first finger, Point outside your left hip. Draw a line up above your head, then move the blade to the outside of your right hip. Next, move your blade so that it is outside your left shoulder, then horizontally across so that it is outside your right shoulder. Finally, move it back to the left hip, ending exactly where you began. Your finger or the tip of the knife should always be pointing forward, away from you. See the diagram. The vanishing earth pentagram. When you draw the pentagrams, you should visualize them as being very bright and pure blue. It is the same color as you see in the electric spark in the flame of a gas stove, or when a small dish of liquid, fluid, or alcohol is set ablaze. If you cannot visualize so well that you can actually see the pentagram in flame as you draw it, simply know beyond all doubt that if you had better developed psychic visions, you will be able to see it. Know that it is there. See the flame. Follow the tip of the blade of your finger as you draw the pentagrams in the air, and know the flame is there. Although an overview of this book is a good idea, when you get into actually doing the work, practice rituals given so far, and study the material for 1 month before going on to the next lesson. Review. Following questions are designed to help you determine if you have mastered the information in Lesson 1. Please try to answer them without looking at the text. The answers are in Appendix 2. Question 1. What are the 4 things that can occur when you dream? Question 2. What is your personal, secret, magical text? Question 3. Why should you read other books on the Kabbalah or magic? Question 4. How does Arthur C. Clarke compare magic and technology? Question 5. Define white magic, black magic, and gray magic. Question 6. How can you avoid accidentally doing black magic? Question 7. What is the earliest mention of the tarot in history? Question 8. What is the difference between divination and fortune telling? Question 9. Give 3 reasons for doing the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. The following questions only you can answer. Question 1. Are you keeping dream and ritual diaries? Question 2. Are you doing the relaxation ritual regularly? Question 3. Are you working with the tarot? Question 4. Why do you want to study magic? And question 5. Do you think you really understand this lesson? That marks the end of Lesson 1.